Mike, thanks panel. Our next speaker was the runner-up in the Who Wants to Be the Cloud Geek game show yesterday. His picture was also featured in Treb's presentation this morning. So if you don't know him, you certainly should recognize him. So I'd like to introduce Rick Nucci, who's General Manager at Dell Boomi.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to talk to you for 25 minutes, being respectful of your lunchtime. And if any of you know what Boomi does, I'm not going to be talking to you about integration, although I'll use a couple of examples here and there. What I really want to talk to you about today is what are communities all about in the cloud. And what I specifically mean by that is, as all of us are looking at building cloud offerings, what is the impact and the value of a community, and leveraging and exploiting that community, and investing in developing that community. And, you know, hopefully trying to inspire big thinking by sharing things that other companies have done in various aspects of creating their communities. So that's really what I want to try to get out of today, and again, hopefully encourage some big thinking. So every time I do a speaking session, I am so focused on trying to not make it a commercial about Boomi that inevitably when I'm done, somebody goes, what does Boomi actually do? And raises a question. So we provide cloud integration, and we help, as companies are moving to the cloud, we help them connect and integrate their applications together. And that's what our company has been doing. We've been doing integration since 2000. We've been part of Dell since 2010. Our focus and charter remains the same. And community has been a big part of what we've done. So that's really what I'm focusing on, is to share what community's meant to us as I kind of take you through this. So I spent a lot of time trying to come up with a definition of community, and that's, we could spend the whole 20 remaining minutes on debating that, but I kind of liked the biological answer to the question, because I think it kind of really simplified the notion of a community down to its core. A group of interacting living organisms sharing a populated environment. I kind of like that one because the key is that we have something in common as members of a particular community. We're interacting together in that environment where we have something in common, and there's some value that comes out of that. Because otherwise we won't keep talking to each other as a community. We'll just go off and find another community. So I kind of like that one. And I started to think about why should you bother, right? Why should you actually put in the energy to foster a community? It's not like you can build one, but you can enable one. And so why bother doing that? I mean, what should you expect to get out of that? The first one is because you can. And what I mean by that is one of the opportunities of cloud is you can measure the effectiveness of your community, right? Prior to cloud, you kind of throw your software out there onto the customer site, and you kind of hope they're engaging from a community aspect, but you don't really know if they are. Well, you know what your customers are doing now. You know if they stop using you. You know if they never started using you. And most importantly, you know if they're engaging with you and with other members of their community. That's an important one. That's a little bit dramatic, but I think that a lot of people that have built any business that had growth, significant traction, they would tell you that customer-based advocacy was a big reason behind that, right? And so community is where that customer, one of the places where that customer advocacy will manifest itself. Your community is always going to be way smarter than you. They're going to think of ideas that you would have never thought of. And they're going to, we do another talk where we talk about why you should build an API. It's a similar type of thing, because when you build an API, people will consume your application through that API and do things with it that you would have never imagined. And the other reason is that your community creates a real barrier to entry for your competitors. You can't market a community. You either have it or you don't. And it's something that gets built up over a significant period of time and a significant investment, and the numbers kind of speak for themselves. You can't solve this one with a marketing slide. So I think that's sort of the compelling reasons. At least that's sort of why we felt it was important for our business. In the B2B world, I should have said that. I'm really talking about the B2B world. I'm not talking about communities in the consumer world, because let's face it, I think they've kind of got that sorted out. But in the B2B world, I think we're still pretty much at the early stages. So in that B2B world, the members, the types of people that are a part of your community, of course you have the customer and the end user, and that's the obvious one. You have the consultant or the developer or the systems integrator or the cloud service broker or their intermediary, whatever you want to call them. You have that person who sometimes sits in between the provider and the end customer. And then you have cloud providers. You have that might be partners of yours. And these are some of the key stakeholders. You could argue that your employees are also members of your community, but I'm trying to sort of implicitly say that in the cloud provider one. And then we thought about, what are the stages of community? What are the stages of community maturity? And we said, okay, well, how would we sort of measure community maturity? And I think there's kind of two ways, that we landed on. The first one's engagement. The more mature your community is, the more engaged the participants of your community are. And the second one is the ongoing value potential to your business of your community. So as you move up the curve of community maturity, the ongoing value potential increases. And so there's 4 categories, what we are categories. I'm not making a dramatic statement about community categories, but these are sort of 4 ways we thought about how you can think about where you're at in the community, and there's probably others, but I think these are 4 that you sort of see a lot of gravity around. So let's talk about these. So usage collaboration, and this is the one that's probably the most pervasive. Usage collaboration is a community that engages with each other to share best practices in using your product. So it might be a forum, right? Well, forums have kind of been around for a long time. So I sort of put that one lowest on the list. I do like the notion of chatter, because one, it brings a social element to the usage level, and it engages a deeper level of usage collaboration than just a forum, because chatter is inextricably linked back to your customer record. So if your customer's chatting, you can see that in your customer account. And so it's a nice social meets enterprise. It's a good marketing story, but there's also actually some real legitimacy to it. And so I wanted to call that one. I think it's a good example because it does take usage collaboration and kind of bring it to the next level. One of the things that we did that has been successful for us around usage collaboration is collecting feedback about our product and building that mechanism right into the product. So when you log into the offering and you're working and you go, geez, I wish it did this, you can one click immediately go and submit that idea. You can look at what other members have submitted and you can vote on their ideas. The most popular things float to the top. These are well-known products that power this. But my point in sharing this with you is, the other discipline we put ourselves into is we committed that we would implement 25% of the most popular feedback items. So as the community member, you feel like we're listening to you because we're actually doing the idea that you gave us. So again, kind of slides you up that engagement level a little bit more. The next one is new development. So new development is somebody is building something on top of my offering. They're building something new, and that could be I have a platform and people are building an app on top of my platform. It could also be that I am an app and I have an API and people are building a net new application on top of my API. There's a couple different ways you can measure that, but now you're starting to get into this notion of developing IP or intellectual property. You're seeing the community investing more in your offering, in your platform by doing that. I think Heroku has been a company that's probably demonstrated the most success or traction with their add-on capability, where you can very easily, as you're building your app on this platform, add on complementary components that are built by third party. I think it's a good example. Another thing that we did in this category that we found to be impactful was enabled anyone in our community to build connectors. In the integration world, connectors are how you connect an integration middleware to a specific application. And you don't want to be the only guys building those. You want to let your subject matter experts build their own connectors. And so we opened up our platform and we enabled anybody to build and develop those connectors on top of our offering. And that's worked out really well. That's really helped with our engagement and our ongoing value potential because it's allowed us to proliferate the number of things we can actually connect and integrate. The next one, and I would say arguably kind of maybe at least in the B2B world, the least mature is monetization. So, we've collaborated on how we use the product. We've actually built something new on top of the offering, and now we're going to turn around and actually monetize that thing that we've built. So this would be not you, not the provider, someone else in that community ecosystem actually being able to generate revenue off of something that they built on top of your platform. The benefit from an ongoing value potential is, again, they're investing more in your business. You're now a revenue channel for them, and you're going to be successful as they're successful. I think arguably the best example of monetization in the B2B world, one of the best examples would be Google Marketplace. I think the reason why this one's the least mature is you have to have a market before you can have a marketplace. I think there's been lots of marketplace attempts before the market was there. To use the very lame and overused analogy of the App Store, the App Store was launched after millions and millions of devices were sold. It wasn't launched when the iPhone was launched, right? And so Google, when they launched their marketplace, they had a critical mass around their apps product line. And that created the gravity for that community to come and build and try and create a business off of that marketplace. And the last one, and the one that I guess kind of fascinates me the most, is the notion of collective intelligence. As cloud providers, we have an unfair advantage against our competitors, which is that we're multi-tenant. So we have derived value we can get because everybody's using the same instance of our offering. Mint.com is a cool consumer example of this. If anybody's ever used Mint.com, you manage all your expenses in Mint.com, and one of the things it tells you is for a particular spend category, how do you compare to people in your neighborhood or in the United States or wherever. Incidentally, one time I did that, and my coffee spend is off the charts compared to my competitors. Like Like it's a serious problem. It's an order of magnitude versus the other members of my community in terms of how much I spend on coffee. It was really embarrassing it. So anyway, enough. I don't mean to make it too personal, but you check out Mint because you might learn something about yourself. But there's other really kind of fascinating ones. You know, another one that I liked a lot was if anybody remembers, Google did this. They did this 411 service called Goog 411. I don't know if anybody ever tried to use that. It's not around anymore. And they created this free service where you could completely automated. There's no possible way to talk to a person, so it's completely automated, where you could ask for a pizza place near San Francisco, and it would give you options. And they since shut it down. But the reason why they built that was not to help you with finding where you wanted to go. The reason why they built that is because if you call Goog 411 and you ask it something and you make a selection, you've told Google that it correctly interpreted your voice, right? So it's learning from millions and millions of people calling in by optimizing the way it interprets human speech. And I thought that was a really clever way to leverage and exploit collective intelligence. Another one that just fascinates me is, baby monitors have been around for a long time, right? Well, this company launched called Evos that provides a baby monitor, and they do it based on iPhones, so you can just put your iPhone near your baby's crib, and you'll hear it from the other room in the house when the baby starts making noise. But the other thing they did is they centrally collect all of the noises that the babies make so that they can begin to detect patterns. Like if the child has a colic, it will make certain noises, or if it coughs a particular way. So you can start to get alerted to things by analyzing sounds from all the different, babies being monitored. And I thought that was a really cool example. One of the things that we did along the same line was to help solve the problem of data mapping. In the integration world, you have to map fields between applications. You have to take a customer record in this application and map all the fields to customer record in this application. It's very time consuming. It's the most labor intensive part of building any integration. And because everyone's using the same version of Boomi and everyone's building all these maps, we started anonymously indexing all of the mappings that are being built across all our users. There's now over 2 million of them. And so now if you log in and you try to map something new, you get the benefit of every map that was ever built before you. And if we find similarly named fields, we suggest them to you with a pretty high degree of accuracy, and sometimes over 80%. And of the suggestions we give you, 87% of them are actually taken and used. So pretty good accuracy. And the reason why it's accurate is because the maps are constantly being added into this index, constantly being added. So we're continuing to learn from the collective intelligence of the community. The community is teaching us that, I did this thing 20 times, and 18 of the times I did it this way. So your confidence that it's going to be right goes up and up and up and up. So I think it's a good example. And again, there's lots more of these, but this is arguably one of the this network effect notion is arguably one of the most compelling things when you're engaging your prospects, and it's one of the hardest things for your non-cloud competitors to try to do. They really can't do it without some serious cloud washing. So again, it gives you that kind of unfair advantage. So again, I think to kind of summarize some of these core things, I think it's really important to think community from the beginning. It should be a part the initial design of the business. And I know like part of that sounds obvious because if customers are part of the community, yeah, we want customers, but I don't mean that. I mean the engagement of your community and how to enable that and refine it and invest in it. Cloud and community are inextricably linked, meaning that cloud is so available and so present that all of the members of the community are going to talk whether you want them to or not. And so it's really important to be present and aware of those conversations to try to foster them to the degree you can. I think that's really, really important. I think that if you look at any B2C success, community is behind that. It's one of the core elements. And I think there's a lot of analogies to be drawn from that. And then, of course, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's the notion of embracing the fact that your community collectively is smarter than you are. They're going to think of things that you wouldn't have thought of. And they're going to give you staying power in your particular space. Because, again, when you've mastered a community, when you've built and grown one, it's very hard for your competitors to catch up to that. So that's really it. I've left 5 minutes for questions if anybody has any, including challenging me for missing like really basic stuff about community. That's just entirely possible. But I just wanted to kind of share our thoughts and some of the things that we've thought about and observed in companies that have kind of figured out how to make community work. So, any questions from anyone? Yeah.
Do you find the community thing easy to communicate during the sales process? Are you really seeing it as an advantage, or is it just another point of confusion for people?
Yes, if you focus, if anyone didn't hear the question, is this something you really communicate as part of the sales process? I think it's a good question. I think, yes, if you focus on very tactical components of your community, you know, like for us, we always talk about the ideas part where you can contribute feedback while you're working in the product. We always talk about that suggest where we'll do mappings for you. So we're not describing that as community per se, but the community is what made those things possible. So that's how we've approached it, and I think it avoids the valid point you're making about kind of like confusing the prospect.
Do you then integrate some online community with some advisory boards or whatnot? So you probably also have some key customers that you have a close relationship, a more traditional users group that is, you know, person to person, and work that in with you. I mean, do those two work together? Or does the community obviate the need for a more traditional advisory board? How do these work?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, I don't think it does. I think, or maybe the way you engage with a customer advisory board changes as a result of a virtual type of engagement. But you know, we're going through this right now with a product that we're bringing to market, where we have ongoing cadence of meetings with some of our customers and partners who are helping us review requirements. So it's very program specific, and it's much more of a mutual commitment of interaction versus like the quarterly let's meet up and talk. You know, that one we don't do as much because we have a lot of these other capacities to engage, but for things like that, like a new product offering or a feature review or collecting feedback about something you know we're getting, you know, a mass of things that you don't like about the product, you know, that's where we'll still do kind of a direct engagement, but it's changed the interaction. Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks for your time, everyone.